It's not every day you get to rescue a World War II relic. This is an early 40s Willys, MB, or Ford GPW, and I do believe it's actually a Ford. It has been parked since about 1965. We've got to cut a big path to even try to get this thing out of here. Of course, if you know, we really enjoy the Willys and Jeep rescues. This to us is like the cream of the crop, something this old with this kind of history. It needs to be rescued, it needs to be saved. We're gonna attempt to get this thing running and hopefully moving under its own power for the first time in almost 60 years. You'll hear that skid loader running. This is an estate that's being cleaned up. We were able to get a few vehicles, if you can't tell, already gross. We've got 2 out of the 3 that we were able to rescue off of this estate. But I'm really excited for this one. I don't know much about these, and so originally I thought it was probably a CJ2 or a CJ3, but the more you look at it, this is a different windshield, and I love this hardtop. But right here, this is an MB hood. It does not have the MB grille. It's a 7-slat, but that just swaps out. There you can see the military lights, and then a couple big telltales. No fuel fill. The little spots here for your tools. And under here, somewhere, there should be those doors. And it looks like someone installed their own tailgate, but of course, these would not have had a tailgate. This thing is so neat. Let's try to get these tires, try to get a little bit of air in these tires, try to get this thing dragged to move around a bit and get it out of here. We gotta cut some trees. That's a open you up, send you to the hospital. Now I highly doubt it, but it's worth trying to see if it'll take air. That rear one is up. It might be water filled or something, but it would be helpful. Definitely got a tube in it. I think it might actually be taking air. It's just so far in the ground. Believe it or not, that one took air, and that thing right there took air. Now we're gonna stay a long ways away from it. Some heavy duty old tubes. Now hold on, I gotta try to see if it'll steer. Go ahead and get a little pressure on it. All right, hold on. A little bit. All right, hold on. Go ahead. All right, hold on. Okay, this one, it's all full rolling. got it pulled back to the shop and I'm pretty excited to dig into this thing. Now I do want to go through kind of some things that I found and a little research that I did. This one's a bit confusing because of some of the parts that are on it. You'll notice it is a military Jeep, and we know that by these lights here, the fact that it has glove boxes on the dash, the gas tank that is inside the cab, which is specific to the MB and the GPW, and where you can put the tools, and then the fact that it had no tailgate. The one that's on there was obviously added. Now, what is this one specifically? Opening up the hood. Okay, as long as this one's sat, I'm ready to dig in, but this is the crustiest engine we've ever gotten into. I don't think it has spark plugs anymore. Oh, I did some cleaning up right here in this corner and actually found the Ford serial number. That serial number, we know this is a 1943 Ford GPW, which I think is just so awesome. The fact that this thing was manufactured by Ford, how cool is that? And looking underneath, the frame is all correct. All the Ford specific stuff is there, but the tub itself, these things were super cheap. All the parts are pretty much interchangeable and stuff is interchanged all the time. And this tub is actually an MB tub, and we know that pretty quickly just looking here. The Fords had a stamped box, and where your push button goes right here was a square instead of round. You can see through the rust. It says Supersonic right there on the head. That's a Kaiser Supersonic, which would have came out of a Henry J. This is a Ford GPW, MB, M38, Henry J. Let's start with trying to clean this engine bay up. Let's cross our fingers, attempt to pull what looks like used to be spark plugs out, see what these combustion chambers look like, see what we're getting into. We'll go ahead and just drag everything out of this interior. It was obviously used as a storage shed over the years, and then the bit that's left in the back there. The amount of spent shells that are in this thing are hilarious. Have you ever seen spark plugs? Wonder how long those have been there. I love seeing all that army green come through everywhere. This thing's rough in some ways, but the fact that it still exists and it's still in one piece is crazy. Nothing crazy exciting we found, but there is something crazy exciting. A couple small spots. Do you see how solid this thing actually is? I mean, it's usable just like it is. How many World War II Jeeps that haven't been completely restored are this usable? no way. Oh. 3. Last one. I never would have thought that right are. I mean, they ain't pretty, but they moving. That means these plugs were probably sealed pretty good. We might have a chance. Rear cylinder. Look at how dry that is. There's a little bit of condensation. Oh, I can't believe there's almost no plug left, but it stayed sealed, kind of, down there. Little bit of surface rust. That's really good plugs, all things considering. Dude, that's 4 really nice plugs. Even so, let's blast these cylinders full. We know the carburetor's been open. This thing has clearly seen a little bit of moisture at least. We haven't pulled the dipstick on this. I just realized. We should see if the... Does this thing have a dipstick? Hey. It didn't cross my mind because I didn't see one. Okay, we'll find the dipstick and see what's in there. We want to take some penetrating oil and completely load these cylinders down. If there's a chance of any kind of rust on those cylinders, on those rings, we don't want to go in here and start cranking things over and tearing something up. We want to let it soak for a little bit, and so there's as much chance as possible to get this thing moving. Okay, I'm a goofy goober. I bet it's this right here. Oh wow, that is some thick, old dinosaur bones, but no signs of crazy moisture. That's actually pretty nice. These belts may definitely give us a false sense of being stuck, but I'm ready just to give it a shot. Uh-oh, belt gave up. Valves were in there moving. We might be getting somewhere with this thing. I never would have guessed in a million years looking at this thing that would have spun over that freely. I want to try to get a battery in here and see if things will start turning over. It's obvious somebody had kind of set this thing up as 12 volt. There was a 12 volt battery in here. They've got a starter, a 12 volt starter solenoid, and what is left of a 12 volt coil there. But they were not actually charging. The generator's not hooked up. The regulator, that big cool crazy regulator's not hooked up. Before we do try to start cranking this thing over, I want to drain the oil out of this thing. As long as this thing is sat as gross and crusty as everything is, most of your sediment, your crud, is gonna have settled down to the bottom of that pan over these past 60 years. We want to get it out of there, make sure there's not a major amount of sludge or anything that's going to cause any kind of blockage issues. And clearly we don't have a filter on an engine like this, so we want everything to be nice and as clean as possible. Huh. It's got water, because it's got like a little trail of water that was separated. It's not much. I don't think we drained out. It didn't drain a quart. Shoot, is it sludgy? I want to drop that pan, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. I hate to do it without knowing if this thing will run, but man, it's just thick, chunky sludge down in there. If we weren't doing this because we truly wanted to rescue this, we would just get in there and try to crank it over. But I feel so much better dropping the pan. Oh man, I'm glad we did that. That's crazy, the pickup screen just floats. With this down, it also gives us the opportunity to look up in here, take a look at our connecting rods, also see our bores, look at our cylinders, make sure everything looks pretty good from underneath. From right here though, you've got some nice shiny crank. There's no rust, so there wasn't a ton of moisture down in the bottom. How cool is that? Look, there's a quart and a half still in here. There's a mud dauber. See how nice our cam looks? There's what I want to see. Beautiful clean cylinder walls. They're worn, but for something that makes 12 horsepower, can't go wrong. Look how long those connecting rods are. That connecting rod's nice and tight. That one's nice and tight. All right, that's good. Beautiful. Beautiful. Making some soup. Tar soup. I was tapping it, and that is to break up all of this stuff. So if you see here are spot welds that actually hold the little skid plate on. All of this is rust from all these years of sitting and stuff collecting in there and everything. And if you can't tell, just a little bit of tapping. This is what I was checking for. The bottom of this pan is just paper thin and it's split out everywhere. Oh man, I didn't want to get oil in there and then take a chance of it starting to leak, because you could see here it was already right on the verge of coming through. And the only reason it probably didn't is because of the amount of rust packed in there. There is just nothing left of this oil pan. We're aiming for a temporary fix to at least get us to make sure the engine is good before we consider figuring out another pan. Quite honestly, this JB weld would probably last for years if you ran it as a permanent fix. One thing I want to get a good look at while we can see it is this nylon cam gear. I'm going to get Dad to turn it over. Let's just make sure it's not cracked up, deteriorated, or missing teeth. Probably something to eventually consider, but if they're in good shape, most of the time they're pretty good. All right, slow. Keep going. Keep going. Looks phenomenal. with about 4 quarts. We're just shy of the full mark. Let's see if it'll turn over by the starter. Knowing this carburetor was wide open for at least some of the time this thing sat, before we start trying to crank over on it, I want to pull this and just make sure we don't have anything down in the intake. Plus, while we have it off, I've got a rebuild kit. We'll throw this thing in the vat, see if it'll clean up, because this is the original, or original to what the GPW would have had. So if we can save it, it'd be pretty neat too. I'm interested to see what it looks like internally after all these years. I don't really need to cut that. It looks to be super clean. Look at this old original gasket. That is some old school stuff. I love seeing it. I'm always pretty curious to find out what these carburetors look like after so many years. I have a feeling we'll probably see some lead down in the bottom of here. What we tend to find with these old carburetors is that as the fuel evaporates, the old leaded fuel will leave a bunch of lead behind. I remember mentioning it in the past, and it was actually some subscribers that told me what that was, so it's kind of neat to see. This carburetor's stacked in so many levels, I am unsure. Looks more like mud dauber. Yep, so that carburetor's had, probably in the vent tube, had a bunch of mud dauber packed down in it. You can tell it's definitely a lot older fuel. You're not full of a bunch of varnish like we get out of today's fuel, but just a bunch of mud, which is nice because that thing is actually pretty darn clean. Yeah, that's why we pulled it off. On our turns. Yeah, about 1 3/4 turns. Remember, that's for reassembly. I know there's a reason they got away from the old fuel we used to use, but man, it was so much kinder on stuff. I mean, once evaporated, this carburetor is practically brand new. Classic military vehicles is where I got this rebuild kit, and it has to be one of the coolest and most in-depth rebuild kits I've ever gotten. Jets and needles and Welch plugs, which we're not going to do Welch plugs as nice a shape as this one is in. Now it's time to make some soup. Oh man, that's my good soup. Original finish on this carburetor. It's just crazy to see that. And look at this bowl. It's like perfect. Half, 1/2 quarter. Not a perfect carb, but pretty happy with it, all things considering. I feel like we should probably mess with the cables a little bit. We don't want to start a fire. There you go. Did you pull that pretty coil off? Good.
Did you want to try it?
Probably not. I've never seen, it's 12 volt. I have never seen a coil like that. I probably shouldn't be touching it. Okay. Oh my goodness. There's a fuel line. The reason I'm using this and it won't stay this way is just because this bolt was already loose. Here is a good opportunity for us to throw a ground on. This cap is just floating around. I want to get it opened up. Make sure there's nothing frozen in here anyways. Oh wow. That thing was sealed up good. Crunchy old cap, deteriorating wires, really nice on the inside. Not very nice otherwise. Actually, just popping it like that, most of that stuff just flicked off. Look at that. Boop. I'd always prefer to try to use original to begin with. Most of this old stuff will still work when cleaned up compared to the new stuff that doesn't seem to last very long anymore. No explosions. That's like starting. It sounds good. The starter actually sounds, my goodness, that belt's just disintegrating. Spinning over, I don't think it'll hurt to check our compression and kind of see where we stand. Easy enough on this one. Nothing. Awesome. Well, we wanted to know where we stand. Okay. Some of them sound like they have it. Something's wrong with this gauge. I just know it. That's almost 110. That's beautiful. Being dead like that, it's gotta be a stuck valve. Okay, should we act surprised?
Might not run on one.
I know why it turns over so smoothly. We have a lackage of compressionages. We're gonna have to pull the head and hope we can get those valves to free up. Everything was looking so good. We should have known. We were at least gonna get into this and hopefully they'll free up smoothly. I'm not even gonna spray these. I'm hoping the studs just pull. I'm not sure how we're gonna do that one. Take it off. That's gonna be a monster.
We can try to double them. Well, there ain't enough to double them. Oh.
There we go. That's how I wanted it to come out. Look at that. Oh boy.
No. Is it in there? Yeah. Oh, what in the world?
Oh my goodness. Dude, what is this? Oh my. At least it had a thermostat in it. Imagine what it'd look like if it didn't. Oh yeah. Look, this fat guy ready to chill. Yeah. Ah! Oh my goodness. Oh, that thing. Dude, it's beautiful in there. Well, you know, other than that stuff. Head's perfect. Carbon buildup may very well be what was keeping our valves. I'm interested in seeing if they move. This thing's never been decked or anything. Like D, E, F, E. It's never been decked, or it's a one original little 70-plus-year-old motor. This would have been early 50s. Look at that.
Which one was the non-dead one? This one.
Yeah, this one was good.
Yeah, let's... Starter stuck.
It'd be the solenoid. This is a brand new solenoid.
That's a good one. Straight from China. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. I was just trying to pull one. I started pulling. I'd have gone for the negative, but it was positive was what it was going to be. Yeah.
Using a very soft, worn Scotch-Brite pad, which we're not going to hurt anything anyways. Thankfully, these valves don't look horrible, neither do the seats. This thing really surprised. It is extraordinarily crusty on the outside, one of the crustiest we've ever worked on, but super, super nice combustion chambers. I am blown away. It just goes to show everything was truly dry from the lid being on, and I think all of the pine needles and dirt that formed from those rotting over the years kind of encapsulated. All of the crust is just from condensation from the ground. Thankfully, everything stayed dry in here. It's not like you had water running down on top of it. That looks pretty good to me. They're dropping all the way down now. I think just a little bit of working them free, cleaning crust from around those valves. Feel pretty good about it. Let's get a head back on and see what our compression's like. This thing's got good oil pressure. That decking surface is super, super good shape. And running our pulled studs back in, we want to remember to put some type 2 non-hardening sealant on the threads, because these are all drilled straight down into the water jacket. We don't want those to leak. This is all smoke. Between Table Rock and Persimmon Ridge fires, we're at about 6,000 acres burned at this point and 0% contained. I think we're probably 11 miles roughly as the crows flies. Hopefully, today seems calm compared to the last 2 days. Even as nice as the surfaces are, I like to spray the head gasket or gaskets like that down with copper spray gasket just to give us a little bit of extra sealing there in case we had some kind of issue. Torquing these down, I'm gonna start at 50. You'll start from the middle, work your way out, and work your way across either side, kind of staggered. We'll do 50, 60, and finish off with 70 foot-pounds of torque. Beautiful. A little lower there. Might have some trash to clear out still. It's not horrible. Those numbers may do it, and hopefully they'll pick up and clear out. That's probably just, we know our valves are seating nicely now, so it's probably just some gunk around the rings. If it'll run, it should pick on up. We might have to put a little bit of Lucas down in there just to help seal up everything a little bit. But we're turning over. We've got 4 cylinders with compression now. Let's see if we can get this thing firing. This thing, unfortunately, is just corroded. They made all of this of stainless, that's why it looks so nice. But then right here where it rides is just frozen. We're gonna have to get a set of points. There it goes. Yep, it came out, unfortunately, in pieces. While we wait for points to come in, I am gonna pull this fuel pump. We know the diaphragms are smoked in this thing. Every bit of rubber is just deteriorating, and it's not OEM anyways. I got a factory one to put in here. We can get our carburetor rebuilt, and we can get it reinstalled as well. Go back in with our new plugs. We want to make sure we've got a 30 thousandths gap. Our exhaust is building compression. I wonder if that exhaust is plugged up. Surprisingly, we've got full exhaust, and it looks pretty, maybe original. And it's packed slap full of mud dauber. Yep. Oh! Yep. Yeah, the whole sleeve, inner sleeve is rotted away. Yeah, see, there's supposed to be a sleeve here. Oh, it is gone. Look at that, US patent numbers and everything. Wonder if that's original to the GPW. You notice with this, the military green intake, oil fill, water pump. I think this was a long block that all the stuff off the original GPW had installed onto. To work. How cool is that? Where the clamp was, it's like brand new under there. It's like a cloth hose. You just don't see stuff like that on anything anymore. All this old 60s stuff. Okay, hold on a second. It's got a drain plug. But somebody did us a favor. This was on a farm, so I'm sure it just had water in it. Thank goodness someone decided to drain it out. Pretty clean. I mean, everything's gonna have settled, but the block looks super clean, Dad. Just not seeing how many leaks the radiator has. Just as nice as the engine internals, the water internals, there's no doubt this thing was probably a really, really nice vehicle when it was parked. And so it's crusty, but for as long as it was parked, it could definitely be a lot worse. The cab protected it, and just being a nice Jeep probably helped a lot too. Put a smidge of grease here on our ride point for wear. We can get this down in high. We'll set our points gap to 20 thousandths. Make sure we are broke. We are, obviously. Perfect. If we got any fire. Can you believe that old condenser is still that stout? I'm gonna hook it back up the way they had it to begin with, and we'll find out if that firing order is right. If it's not, we'll have to set our number 1 and make sure we work off of that. Wires back the way they were. Fuel hooked up to our new fuel pump, ran to our rebuilt carburetor. I think it's time to find out if this thing will pop off. Yeah, we got gas. You ready, Dad? Mm-hmm. My favorite part. Y'all ready? Dude, it's ready to roll. There was a lot between, it's not like we could just fire this thing up. Oh man, this thing's gonna go. The fan keeps spinning, it's hilarious. Woo! Dude! What's the oil pressure, Dad? Check the piece. No knock, it sounds good. No. Let's get some coolant in it. like a little Ridley four-cylinder flathead. That is too good. Over 40 PSI oil pressure. Sucking it down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Turn the water on. That's awesome. That's awesome. That is so awesome. Smells so horrible, but that is the sweet smell of success. I'm pretty sure we said we were going to try and make this thing move. Let's hook up a throttle, see if it'll move under its own power. Find out. Oh, I can just barely fit it in here. Needs to lose some weight. I am gonna go. It's in. I'm gonna go to low. That is the sloppiest shifter. Uh-oh, jams. Should be reversed. We've got clutch. What a hot rod. This is so wonderful. It doesn't steer. Oh, it doesn't take throttle. Oh, it has no timing. Wait a second. Woo, second gear. Is this great or what? It needs a lot more work, but it runs and we are moving for the first time in 60 years. I mean, it's a mountain goat. Look at this thing. It's a little warm. Open your, oh, it's tight?
No, it's just how you sit.
Is this great or what though? I love this thing. Always been a Jeep fan. Door coming at me. The first vehicle that I drove with my license was a 73 CJ5. It was small, but not this small, but it was not this cool.
Get out of this thing.
Pull the door off. You think that's bad? The steering wheel's terrible. Holy moly. 82-year-old Ford that has been sitting since the mid-60s. We got this thing dragged out. There was quite a bit of time figuring everything out, but we got it figured out and it was ready to roar back to life and move under its own power. What a cool machine. Now let me ask you this, where do we go at this point? For me, I think our next step is to go through the brakes, dial in our cooling system, take care of a charging system, and use this as the mountain goat that it is, take this out and do some trails and stuff. But then from that point, I know we got to put a factory windshield in it. We've got to put that 9-slat grill back in it. Do we restore it? These are actually pretty reasonable and inexpensive to restore because they make all new parts for these things. We'll blast it off and see how much of the original paint is still left under here. There's a ton of army green. I love the top. I don't know. Let us know what you would do with this. I know we're definitely gonna have a ton of fun with it. And if you enjoyed that and you haven't already, you wanna see more on this rescue and our other rescues, we have a ton of really fun ones coming up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to keep up with our future uploads. And if you have been a part of the channel, we do appreciate it so incredibly much. We get to rescue these old forgotten rides because of each and every one of you. So thank you, peace out, and catch you all on the flip side.